Cleveland last night. First downs, Cleveland had more. Passing first downs, Cleveland. Third down efficiency, Cleveland was better. Fourth down, Cleveland was better. Passing yards, Cleveland was better. Possession, dominate time of possession, Cleveland was better. Yeah, they had those pick six things. You lose a lot more games than you win, and Jameis Winston was Exhibit A last night. Bo Nix never took a sack. Jameis Winston took a couple of beauties, like really badly timed sacks. Bo Nix had 2 picks. One was a deflection. One was like a change of possession, downfield a punt. Jameis had 4, 2 were pick sixes and 1 in the end zone. So sometimes a quarterback needs to be boring and manage the game. Jameis Winston is never boring. He's Evel Knievel at quarterback. He's a walking bachelor party. He's a parachutist who forgets his parachute. Those skydivers don't last long. Bo Nix, however, as a rookie, had a sense of timing, when to let it loose and when not to. And last night was a shootout. And shootouts happen in the NFL. And Jameis Winston, of his 85 snaps, you went wow with about a dozen of them. And then you went ugh with about 4 to 5 of them. Now, Bo Nix had just 66 snaps. He had a couple of wows, but it was mostly, there we go. Add a quarterback. There you go. Slide, get down, get the first down. Again, very few wows, but Bo Nix didn't really have a, oh no. And that's Jameis's career.
Okay. I disagree with Colin. I think almost every throw by Bo Nix was wow, honestly. And I'm going to explain in a second, because he's going to go off and, kind of really talk about Jameis Winston. I just want to keep all this focus on the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix, because this game was obviously you guys know, you saw this. Like, this game was wild. This game was wild for so many different reasons. It's honestly kind of hard to put into words. And, I took all my notes, and a part of me was kind of like, man, I wish I wasn't taking notes, because I just kind of want to I just want to sit back and just have this game kind of hit me, because it was absurd. And I agree with Colin. I always go through, I didn't write it down this time, but I always go through kind of like the first downs, the third down conversions, time of possession, stuff like that, because those are all interesting data points and matter, but they don't always tell the story. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they're very representative of how a game is unfolded, and sometimes they're not. And I'm still trying to figure out how to make sense of that sometimes. How you can have less first downs, less third down conversions, et cetera, and yet still outplay. I can still make the conclusion, this team still outplayed the other team, and vice versa. So it's always interesting to me. But really, Troy Aikman said it best in the very beginning of the game, which I'll play for you.
And by all accounts, they have. Now, ultimately, it's going to be judged on what career Bo Nix has. Up to this point, it's been fantastic. And as you've heard me say many times, Joe, if you come out of the season believing that first-round pick is a franchise quarterback, then it was a successful year. Not only do they know that, but they're winning games along the way, and he has the benefit of having Sean Payton call plays for him, which has made it very quarterback-friendly for him.
Let's talk about the other side, the Cleveland.
And there you have it, okay? That's what this season was always about. Can you come away with the feeling that you have your franchise quarterback? And after a game like that, you absolutely can. And that's why I think almost all his throws were amazing. Because the dude throws with such conviction and such confidence, and his throws on the run, we are watching a quarterback, we are watching a dude. I really, really, really believe we are watching a big-time quarterback. I'm actually stunned at this point. I really, really am. Why people believe that Bo Nix is not going to be a great quarterback. And again, I'm not trying to figure out, is he going to be a top 5 quarterback of all time or this. I'm not interested in trying to figure that out. I'm really not. At least not in December of his first season. It's just we'll have those conversations next year and the year after, and we'll have those is Bo Nix better than so and so? And yeah, I'll have those conversations. Those conversations can be fun. I'm not trying to predict what this guy is going to look like 4 years from now. Right now, I'm just not doing it. But I am just so shocked that people are so confident in still saying that he's not a good quarterback or that he won't be a great quarterback. I can't wrap my head around it. And some people, of course, are coming around to him. But even Colin, who's a big fan of Bo Nix, he said last night on his podcast, he said, this may be Bo Nix's ceiling. And he wasn't saying it in a bad way. He praised Bo Nix. He goes, we might be seeing Bo Nix's ceiling right now. And I'm still just kind of like, why are we continuing to put a cap on him? What evidence do we have to suggest that this is his ceiling already? And even if it is, it's already pretty darn high. And then because then Colin said, you can reach a conference championship game with him. And I'm like, well, that's it? That's the ceiling? If that's the ceiling, well, then, then my logic is like, well, then what are we doing with Bo Nix then? Move on from him then. If that's as high as you can get, sure, you'll be relevant, you'll be competitive, they'll talk about you on TV. That's always fun. And you get to go to the playoffs. But, that's not what it's about. So there's still kind of, even among the supporters, there's still kind of I don't know, just weird conversations that are being had. And obviously we all know, and Nick Wright keeps repeating it, that he does not think Bo Nix is a good quarterback, And I see some guy who is not only a gifted quarterback in the pure sense of what a quarterback is, but also physically. First off, the dude's arm is a cannon. I mean, he had multiple throws that, again, Troy Aikman and Joe Buck were just laughing at because it was a cannon. I mean, it just shot out of his arm. And again, his mobility, I think right now I'm always trying to figure out what are certain quarterbacks' superpowers. And it's his ability to throw on the run and deliver an accurate strike is there. And again, this team is not stacked with pieces around him. This is the worst team. I mean, hopefully, this should be the worst team that he's playing on right now with the Denver Broncos. I mean, the run game is just non-existent. And not having a run game for your rookie quarterback is brutal. I mean, it is. We know that. It's brutal for any quarterback, but especially a rookie quarterback. Because you knew watching this game, they're like, all right, they're going to live and die by the throw tonight, man. And that's why, Peyton was even dialing up plays that were kind of just these pushing the ball down the field, because it was like, we got to put up points, we got to get out, we got to get after it. We're gonna, every time we try to run the ball, we're gonna get 1 yard, 2 yards, tackle for loss, whatever it may be. We got to push the ball down the field. That was clearly the game plan, and so it did. It hung Bo Nix out to dry a little bit, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but it was, it was kind of saying, hey man, you're gonna be slinging it all over the field. We're taking chances. Your record of no turnovers right now is probably about to end. That's just football, bro. This is what it is. And he passed with flying colors because he was the definition of I don't even remember what happened last drive. I threw an interception, whatever. Let's keep on keeping on. And the one interception was just an unbelievable play, right? I forget who the defensive player was, but how he got his hands in. It was a great defensive play, and the ball just skyrocketed up in the air. And then the other one was, again, it was kind of like this glorified punt. It was just kind of hey, we're just going for it, right? It really was a 50-50 ball, and I think the receiver could have played it a little bit better. They kind of, during the game, they kind of put it on Bo a little bit, saying he couldn't get enough under it. And again, that can always be true for the most part, but I do feel that they could have made a little bit better of an effort. But then it was funny, because then Troy Aikman, who was praising Bo Nix, but also it was at the moment was kind of saying, hey, Bo Nix kind of has to do this and that. And then in that moment, he delivered that strike, to Mims for the 93-yard touchdown. And again, it just stopped someone like Troy Aikman dead in his tracks to just be oh my God. I mean, again, that was an insanely beautiful throw, a perfect read. He read the coverage perfectly. I mean, that is such a big time throw. Sometimes you see moments like that in football with quarterbacks, and it'll be done in a way where it's yeah, that was a nice throw, but it was it was all the receiver, all the play call, bad defense. Backup quarterbacks can throw, a pass that ends up leading to a 93-yard touchdown. But when you see the velocity, the placement, the decision, the read that Bo Nix made in that moment, you're just well, that is a big-time play. That is a big-time throw. And he had a lot of those. There were not a lot of easy throws. And quite frankly, more drives would have been sustained they would have had a lot more first downs and longer time of possession. One, if they could run the ball, and two, in the beginning of the game, there was a lot of drop pass. Bo Nix was hitting these guys in the hands. And at first I was keeping track, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to keep track of all these drops right now. But there were some concrete, specific drops that really would have changed the flow of this game early on. So the fact that they weren't playing great, and again, a young team like this with a rookie quarterback, I'm so much more forgiving of having some of these uglier games and still winning, right? If you're doing this on a regular clip, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, the Chiefs, the Lions, like, I'm less forgiving because my expectations are so much higher. I'm expecting you to be being able to play a much cleaner game. I'm expecting you not to be torched, defensively by Jameis Winston. But Colin also put it perfectly about Jameis Winston, that he's the best player that you would never build your franchise around. That his highs truly can be pretty wild, but his lows are also pretty wild. But I don't think we saw Jameis Winston being special in those moments, and that's why. Because you could just say, if you want to be a very optimistic Broncos fan, you could just be like, hey, listen, Jameis Winston was the number one pick, and he can kind of, sling it like the best of them. He's just inconsistent, and we just so happen to see a game where he was, kind of made some great throws. And it's like, he was throwing to some wide open players, which is a good thing in a way for the Broncos to kind of get that on film defensively, take a look, see what happened. I know they're a little banged up, but still, I mean, like, it was wide open. Any quarterback could be making those throws. So that is something that you have to admit as a Broncos fan and have faith that, going into the bye, they'll take a look at all this type of stuff and be able to fine tune, because teams like Justin Herbert and the Chargers and the Chiefs, like, they're going to want to exploit any of those weaknesses, and those teams will be able to do it with the best of them, especially if the Cleveland Browns can do it. But again, I mean, just some of the throws, like the throw to Vele when he was rolling out, and the great catch by Vele. I mean, just even the first touchdown drive, and this is why stats can be so misleading, because Bo Nix, for the first two touchdown drives, was the absolute engine, the car, the gas, the oil, the tires. He was everything in that drive, making it happen. But then there was no passing touchdowns for him on that, right? Both were just running backs. And then it's like, to start the game, it's like he's got 0 touchdowns and 1 interception. And you're just like, if you look at, and that's why stats, you look at that and you can be like, oh wow, Bo Nixon's not playing that well. Can't believe it. They're winning in spite of him. And it's like, no. That's not the story. That's why it's so crucial to, like, really, really watch the game. But I just think his arm strength, this is what I wrote, his arm strength, his accuracy, his throws on the move, his velocity, and his mobility. I think I just repeated myself a couple times because my notes are all over the place. I watched this game late night last night, but it's just like, he has everything. Like, I'm still trying to find what his weakness is in that regard. And make no mistake about it, Sean Payton is putting an insane amount on his plate. He is putting more on his plate than Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. No doubt. Just watch this game and watch any Jaden Daniels or any Caleb Williams game. And again, I believe in those quarterbacks too. But Bo Nix is having a tremendous amount on his plate. They are relying on him to be the engine of that team. And he's got 2 game-winning drives already this season. 2. That's huge. That's insane. To end the game, he was 4 for 5, 58 yards on the final drive for the field goal to take the lead. I mean, that's box office. That is big time. Monday Night Football, name up in lights, a shootout. Like, those moments really, honestly, cannot be understated. Run game was nowhere really until kind of the end, where it was still kind of sporadic. He definitely had some nice runs, but obviously not something that you could rely on. I was really impressed with that game. Rookies against Jim Schwartz, the defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. Rookies are 8-18-1, which is also a real thing. I talked about this a lot. Great defensive coaches know how to exploit young rookie quarterbacks. That has been very consistent throughout the NFL for years and years and years and years. Bo Nix was not exploited. Again, I know his numbers, but if you look at it on the surface, 18 for 35, 294 yards, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions, and a 65 rating. But like that is not really representative of his game. It really wasn't. He was smart. He threw the ball at the feet of his receivers when need be to protect them, to take care of the ball. I mean, he was smart. I actually really think that this was such a better game than the highlights or just the box score honestly really shows. So I had some strong takeaways from this, honestly, more than I would have initially thought. But honestly, like every drive, even when the drive didn't go anywhere, like he just throws with such conviction and authority. I mean, does it not jump through the screen like it does for me? Because it just does. I see this and it's just, he's just whipping it. He's playing like he is a 5-year veteran who's already been to multiple championship games, AFC championship games. Like he just is so in command, and I find it wildly impressive. Wildly impressive. And no, I don't just explain it by saying, well, he played a lot of games in college. It's more than that. I think what we see in a game like this, I think we see a big game player. A player when it matters most, you can trust him to step up and be there, to deliver the strike, to make the appropriate read. He also makes the right throw at the right time because, you're not always throwing the same type of ball. And so it's funny to see a game where, like, again, his numbers were definitely worse than other games that he's had. And this game, again, the way how this game unfolded was definitely kind of bizarre. And they relied on multiple pick sixes to win this game. Like, make no mistake about it, the Broncos were very fortunate. But again, my whole take springs from the fact of what Troy Aikman said to start the broadcast. It's a successful season if the takeaway is that you have your franchise quarterback. And you have your franchise quarterback. And even in a game like this, that again was bizarre, you see it. You absolutely positively see it. What I see right now, and this might fall on some deaf ears for some people, but I think it's actually pretty accurate. I see like a prime Carson Wentz. And I think Carson Wentz is actually a great quarterback. There's a reason why Sean McVay wanted him, Andy Reid got. There's a reason why great coaches wanted him. He obviously has some personality issues and locker rooms don't want to get behind him, but he was an MVP candidate and honestly should have won the MVP before he got injured. And then he played for some bad Eagles teams with bad coaching, and then his career got fumbled, and then he became a scapegoat. But I see all of the positives with Carson Wentz. So just follow that track. All the positives of Carson Wentz in Bo Nix, and that's what I see a lot of. And I see someone that actually, though, leads and players like him and want to be around him. So that's now the next level and benefit that that Bo Nix has that Carson Wentz didn't. And I think you can have an insane amount of success with Bo Nix. I see a big game player with a big time arm, which is just why it's so funny that people said that he didn't have a big arm going into the draft. It's just, you can't watch any game and think that. So honestly, exciting news and exciting times for the Denver Broncos. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos? Were you impressed with last night? Were you kind of like, man, I don't even know what I just watched? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.